A very good afternoon to all our viewers on today's Google Hangout. And you've all been sent invites specially to be able to attend this Hangout today, which is centered around the word and the curriculum at MEC. But before we get started with the session per se, let me at the outset share with you that at the Mahindra Group, we believe that education is the single most powerful intervention for transforming human lives. Okay, knowledge and skills impact not only earnings but self-esteem, not just the standard of living, but also how we live our lives. And by bringing quality education to more people, we at MEC would help build a more tolerant, healthy, just, and connected society. That said, I would like to go on and say that the reason we chose engineering first is because it is a high impact field that plays a key role in our nation's transformation, the process of transformation, and provides the so-called rocket fuel for economic progress. And also, we, Mahindra, as a group, started off initially and grew as an engineering company predominantly, and are well positioned to contribute to kickstarting the transformation of engineering education in India by introducing a new paradigm in higher education through engineering education. And we also believe that the engineering and technology domains have the greatest potential to
I don't know how to do it.
Vijay, Praveen, you're not
Excuse
audible
me.
to me at least. You're not audible, Praveen.
Yeah, just a second. Excuse me, please.
hello.
Yes,
Hello.
Praveen,
Yes.
you were not audible for some time.
Can you all hear me? I think there is
Yes.
some
Yes.
glitch with
Yes.
the audio.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Now we
okay.
can hear you.
Okay, let me start over once again quickly. A very warm welcome to all of you today who have logged into this Google Hangout session. And yeah,
They are unable to hear you.
A very warm
We are
welcome
able to
to
hear.
all of you. Yeah, and I'm sure today we have with us not only students who have enrolled at MEC, but also your parents and a lot other invitees we have wanted on this show. Before we start off introducing the panel members who will talk at length about the new curriculum that we are planning to introduce, let me share with you that at the Mahindra Group, we believe that education is the single most powerful intervention for transforming human lives. Knowledge and skills impact not only earnings, but also self-esteem. Not only the standard of living, but the way the life is lived, the quality, the overall quality of our lives. And by bringing quality education to more people, we would help build a more tolerant, healthier, just, and connected society that would find answers to the challenges of the future. Why we chose engineering first is because it is a high impact field that plays a key role in any economy towards national transformation and also provides the fuel for economic progress. We could have chosen any other field to embark on this journey of transforming higher education in the country, but this is the reason why, the reason that defines why. Secondly, as a group, Mahindra started off and grew as an engineering company, and it is most ideally positioned to contribute to starting the transformation of engineering education in India. Thirdly, at Mahindra Group, we believe that engineering and technology have the greatest potential to contribute to economic inclusivity and sustainable development. And this makes our foray into engineering education very consistent and quite aligned to our RISE philosophy of business. That said, we also believe that the engineers of the future will have to be trained differently from the past and move more towards the service-oriented economy than from a manufacturing-based economy of the past. And India and the world need technologists who are successful at a synthesis of both the left and right brain approach towards thinking, doing, and communicating. And it is this whole brain thinking that will lead to solutions for the complex problems of this century. And in our quest to bring in a paradigm shift in the engineering education in our country, we were led to the doorsteps of Ecole Centrale Paris, a 180-year-old university of France, and where a high level of technical competence complements the core curriculum, which includes a healthy dose of the liberal arts. And these are going to make all the difference to engineering education in India. And with this key partner in our quest, and JNTU Hyderabad, of course, we are confident of producing the most competent engineers that the 21st century requires. With that introduction apart to Mahindra and Mahindra Ecole Centrale's ethos, I would like to introduce our eminent professors in the panel today. Professor Didier Clotaire, who is the Dean of Academics at Mahindra Ecole Centrale, Professor Ravi Chelaboyna, Professor TSK Murthy, and Professor Vijay Shekhar, who will dwell at length upon the curriculum at MEC, a new curriculum that is key to produce the new engineer at MEC. I would like to invite Professor Didier Clotaire, above all, to give us a short introduction on the curriculum from his perspective, from the Ecole Centrale perspective, and thereon ask the other professors to share their views with us before we start off with the questions that I know you have on your mind and which I am going to ask on your behalf to our professors. Thank you so much. Professor Didier, all yours now.
Thank you, Praveen. I hope everybody can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, we
I
can.
have to get accustomed to my English, to my French accent, sorry. So the first thing I wanted to say is to congratulate you all for being admitted at this new institution. It was a very selective admission process, and you had to go through the GE main exam and to the counseling, and we are very happy, and it's a great pleasure for us to welcome you on the 1st of July on our new campus. And I understand that you have a lot of questions, and we are here today to answer those questions. And why are there so many questions? In fact, it's because the higher education system, not only in India but all over the world, is changing very rapidly these recent days. And well, related to these changes, you have a lot of fears that can appear, but you have also a lot of new opportunities. And to face these changes, we believe that you need strong roots, and you need a vision for the future, and not only a vision for the future, but trust in the future. And so that's on these roots and vision and trust that we build the new curriculum. The first idea is that as an engineer, you cannot be now specialized in only one field, because engineers have to face more and more complex problems, and they are not to face a single problem in electricity or electrical engineering, but they have to face a complex system. And so we have to provide a multidisciplinary curriculum to help you have a better career in your life, because you don't know what you'll be doing within 20 years. And our concern is not only that you learn a few things for your job in the near future, but to learn how to learn to be able to do new things we cannot even imagine within the coming 20 or 30 years. That's why we want the curriculum to be multidisciplinary, and multidisciplinary in a global environment, which means that you don't only need to have a certain amount of knowledge, but you also need to have aptitudes to do things and attitudes to be able to collaborate with others. This is the soft skills part of our curriculum, and this has to be viewed right now is in an international context. Okay, so I don't talk much more about that, but these are the basic principles on which we build our curriculum. And to achieve this, and especially the multidisciplinary part, we have to rely on a very strong common core, and this common core is made of natural sciences and a little bit of humanities for the soft skills. On this common background, we have an access to several engineering branches, and after 3 years, a specialization in one given branch. Okay, and this specialization is always done with an exposure to the industry and with an exposure to the international context. So these are the basic principles of this curriculum. And I think after that we can enter in more specific questions, but it was to give you the background and the main idea, the main principles behind this curriculum. Praveen, do we?
Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Professor Didier, for that thorough, comprehensive introduction to the curriculum. And my question now would be to Professor T.S.K. Murthy, and I would like him to talk a little bit about how our curriculum would ensure concurrency and future industry alignment, how it is relevant to what the future demands.
Thank you, Praveen. Dear participants, I had worked in a multicultural and multi-industrial mode, and more often than not, the problems tend to be very, very interdisciplinary. If you're going to be focusing only on a particular area that you have studied, it's not going to really help you solve or address the complete problem as a whole. And therefore, understanding many things become much more important and the new model itself is what they call as a VUCA model. The entire environment is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. In this kind of a scenario, if you're going with an understanding of only one particular field, it's not going to help you solve the problems. You should be able to understand many things and put them together to address the solution for the problem that arises. From that perspective, the in MEC is to build a very, very strong fundamental aspects of engineering, which are physics and mathematics, and that would be taught in such a detailed manner that one would be able to apply it to either computer science or mechanical or civil, whatever that aspect that you may be looking into. And therefore, this becomes absolutely essential need of the hour to have a holistic thinking of addressing problems.
So, Professor,
Praveen,
we are kind of, yeah. Thank you, Professor. So we are looking at more of a basics and foundation approach for the first initial 1 to 2 years, and then moving on into something more technology focused and more, domain relevant. Is that the way we are going now?
Absolutely. Without a strong foundation, if you have a strong foundation, you can build a very high-rise building. If the foundation is going to be weak, probably you have to limit the number of floors that you may construct on. So it becomes absolutely essential that you build a strong foundation, which is the kind of the basic principle in our curriculum. And it's not only that, you need to be able to live in this world, global village, if you will, and internationalization and learning other languages are equally important.
I agree with you, Professor. Thank you so much for your response to that query of mine. And I would now like to request Professor Vijay Shekhar Chelaboyna to let us know
The language
whether the
that they
folio
know, and this is their mobility a significant manner, and also that it would open up multiple dimensions for them.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you for that response to my query. And I have now a small query for Professor Vijay Shekhar Chelaboyna. I would like to ask him about how the 4-year program at MEC would be different, or how it would vary from the regulation course curriculum being offered at the other engineering institutes in the country presently.
Thank you, Praveen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, sir.
Yes, Vijay.
Okay, great. Yeah, so the curriculum of, as Professor Didier and Professor Krishnamurthy explained, is very different from, say, curriculum that is available elsewhere. In fact, I was teaching in the US for about 9 years. I got my degree from IIT, and of course, I'm familiar with other educational institutions in India. So the common curriculum that typically we see is first year common courses, and then basically almost jump into some of the specialized courses starting from second year, or maybe second semester of second year, and then it goes on to very specialized areas. Now, with that type of curriculum, what happens is, yes, you will certainly get some depth into some of these courses, but then what typically I observed over the last 20 years or something is some of those courses get outdated. So instead, the attitude that we take at Mahindra Ecole Centrale is the following. There are certain number of courses, certain types of basics that will never go out of style, so to speak. So we actually spend much more time on those set of courses initially. And for example, certainly maths and physics is not going to get outdated. I mean, there are new things being discovered even in those areas, but of course, the certain number of basics that are getting used in engineering, the engineering is actually figuring out how to use some of the more advanced techniques in maths and physics more as we move on to newer and newer technologies. So we do spend a little bit more than other colleges. So like the previous professors explained, basically we have 2 years of common courses, and then we go on to specialize. Now, of course, we say so much about basics, but of course, basics in not just maths and physics. Even in the first semester, in fact, we have a course in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and so on and so forth. So if you, by the time you reach third year, not only the mechanical engineering students, but also the computer science, civil engineers, and electrical engineers, all of them get to see each other basic courses. I mean, that makes it not just foundationally strong, but actually interdisciplinary. I mean, these days, if you go out and try to build something in the mechanical engineering area, I mean, something like a robot, for example, do you call a robot something that is mechanical or electrical or computers? I mean, in fact, everything, all put together these days. So one has to know a little bit more than just simple maths and physics. You need to know actually the specific engineering techniques of computer science and electrical to actually build a robot, in addition to mechanical engineering, if you're a mechanical engineer. So, I mean, the key thing is actually you need to know more than just one single stream these days to survive. And I mean, that's basically the philosophy that we adhere to in MEC. Now, the other aspect of it is, of course, once we learn the basics, the second aspect of it is how do we apply it. Now, the application, there are two ways of learning it. One is actually going out into the industry and do some internships, and then actually apply really how to see the basics you learned in school is going to get applied. And of course, that will give you experience into certain examples, but I think that's a lot more than just learning in deep one single course in a classroom, because you get to actually apply on a actual problem that is, current in an industry, right? So we have certainly a lot of focus on the basic courses in the classroom, but when it comes to application, we have, of course, some specialized courses towards the third and fourth year, but much more the experience of actually using these techniques in an internship fashion in an industry is something that is very unique to us. And in addition to, say, the academic, I mean, the specific engineering and science basics, we also have French and many humanities courses. Now, French is, of course, is an additional language that most of us in India would not get a chance otherwise to learn. Now, this will, I mean, we have to understand that one of our strengths, in addition to our technical skills in India, English speaking is actually our strength. I mean, knowing English is actually a reason for many of us to get jobs in places like US and UK and so on. But then, if you actually have an additional skill like learning French, that will open up many more opportunities. I mean, it's not just France. France also, French is also spoken in many other countries, and for example, Morocco is one of them. Places like Vietnam, they had some French culture and so on. So many places actually French is easily understood. Within India, of course, Pondicherry and places like that, French is spoken. So because of this, knowing French is actually much more added advantage in addition to already our strength in English. Of course, the third part, the communication part, is equally important, because when you actually go to interviews and, for that matter, go up in the career, in addition to your technical strengths, communication is very important. So we focus a lot in terms of how your general knowledge is improved or added from whatever you have. So we actually have these three dimensions. Our curriculum is unique in the sense that we have foundation courses, communication, and specialization. All the three dimensions are there. And of course, we are not just going to focus on one of them, but all the three of them. Much more on foundation and specialization, and communication is certainly there throughout the curriculum, but in a slightly lower weightage. Yeah. So over to you, Praveen.
And just to interrupt you there, Professor. Just to add on to what you were just saying, We have both the 4 and 5 year programs with us, and could you be able to tell us about the internships available? Would they be applicable for both the programs that we are offering to our students?
Yes, let me add that. So yes, I mean the internship programs are there in both four-year program as well as 5-year program. During the 4-year program, I believe we have a couple of internships that are in the order of weeks. You know, if I say one of them is actually a 5 weeks internship. When it comes to a 5-year program, one of the 5th-year internship program is a six month internship program. Now the difference, there's a small difference. The internships during 4-year program, actually it's not mandatory that it has to be done in an industry, whereas the 6-month program in the 5-year program has to be done at an industry, preferably abroad, to get exposure to the international industry. Whereas the 5-week and the smaller internship during the 4-year program can be done even, say, for example, with one of the faculty members within the university. And of course, you know, depending on the students' interest and available opportunities, it is always preferable to do it elsewhere, especially in an industry. Over to you, Praveen.
Okay, thank you, Professor. And thank you so much, Professor Vijay Shekhar. And I would now like to, take a cue from what you spoke about the French language, and move on to Professor Didier Clotaire and ask him a question about whether French, as an optional subject in the MEC curriculum, would really make a difference to the new engineer that we are about to create. Professor Didier, here's a question for you on the French language and its relevance.
Okay. So first, to mention that French is a compulsory subject, but in the course of the 4-year degree, it won't enter in the accumulated marks and of the 4-year degree. The reason why we think that French is important, first, because when it comes to the 5-year degree, we want this degree to be accredited by France. So it will be not only an Indian degree, it will be an Indian degree accredited by France. And for that reason, we need the students to reach a certain level in French. And it is compulsory in that sense that if you want your Indian degree to become an European degree, to be able to work whenever you want in Europe and whenever you want in the US or in Canada, for example, which is also a French-speaking country, then you have to have a certain level of French. Okay, so that's the first reason to learn French. But the second one is that it turns out that many people now think that the future will be, especially because of natural resources, will be in Africa, and not as a native language, but as an administrative language and as a business language. Half is speaking, let's say, English, and the other half is speaking French. And due to the expected growth of Africa, we have right now a little bit more than 200 million people speaking French, and by the middle of this century, this figure will more than triple and will reach more than 700 million of people speaking French. And of course, the majority of these people speaking French will be in the middle of higher class, people with who you'll be able to do business. So that is the other reason from an economical point of view to have this French language courses in the curriculum.
Thank you, Professor, for that, for sharing that insight with us. And now I have a query for Professor Ravi Bolina. What I would like to ask him is, will the MEC curriculum be sufficient for preparing students in writing competitive exams such as GATE and civil services, etc.?
Good evening, all. I hope you can hear me well. Um, yes, in fact, the MEC curriculum is going to be sufficient for our students to give GATE or civils or any other competitive exams because of the fact that we emphasize a lot on the fundamentals and the basics of math, physics, and these are universal in their approach, in the sense that, like, any of the competitive exams that you can think of, be it GATE or any of these uh, examinations, they all focus on the fundamentals, and we give a lot of importance to the fundamentals, and hence we believe that it is going to be like absolutely our curriculum is going to prepare the students well so that they can get and excel in these kinds of common entrance exams for their higher education. Over to you, Praveen.
Okay, Ravi. And I have another question to ask you. Yeah. In the same breath, I'd like to also ask you, how is the weightage
Sure.
of the humanities courses in comparison to those of engineering in the MEC curriculum?
See, at the outset, I would like to make it absolutely clear to all the students and also the parents that we are an engineering college. That means when your ward or the student graduates from MEC, they're going to get an engineering degree. And we are going to have engineers graduate from our college. So the emphasis on humanities and the engineering curricula or the courses is I can't say it in percent terms, but we have a good emphasis on the core, which is like the math, physics, and also the engineering classes. That said, we also emphasize on the humanities. The reason we emphasize on humanities, I mean, the humanities, for example, like, languages, like Professor Didier was explaining about the French, and we also have a large number of contact hours for humanities, like English literature, soft skills. These are absolutely important, is because, like, the previous question was, how does the curriculum prepare the students for higher education and these common entrance exams? Think about this, that you're like the student from MEC is going to give an entrance exam, say like a CAT or a GMAT or even GATE. The second part of getting into a competitive examination is the interview. If the student passes the written exam but can't perform in the interview, then it is a very sad thing, because the student has the aptitude, the knowledge, but just does not possess the communication or the social skills to get into these higher universities. And this is absolutely necessary for civils, for GATE, for GMAT, for CAT, any course that the student wants to choose from here on. He needs to have very strong social skills. And the other thing is interviews. When our students appear in front of a panel to be interviewed for a job, for a position that is of a leader, of a person who's going to bring change in an organization, these students are, like, well prepared to answer and tackle these questions head on and come out with a very good personality. And this curriculum of the humanities that we have at MEC is going to prepare our students to be confident young individuals coming out of MEC. Over to you, Praveen. I hope I've answered that question.
Thanks, Ravi. Yeah, I think so too. And Professor Krishnamurthy, sir, I have a question for you now. How do you think that our curriculum is different if we were to compare it with, on any scale, with the NITs and the IITs of India?
Okay, the NITs and IITs have a legacy. Whether they like it or not, they have to carry the baggage. It has been decided over the last few decades, and that they are following that. We are a school starting afresh with the latest infrastructure and the technology, and we are aligning ourselves to the need of the industry. And the curriculum, if you will, is talked with the industrialists, with the academicians inside the country and outside the country, and is made much more relevant compared to some of the courses that have been stipulated in the other institutions. And therefore, in comparison, if you see the basics, we are as good or even better than some of the IITs and NITs, but on some specific topics, probably we will have to catch up, and we will in the shorter period of time. Over to you, Praveen.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Professor. That seems a very concise summing up of the difference between our curriculum and those of the NITs and IITs. And Professor Vijay Shekhar, I just wanted to actually interrupt you in your conversation and your dialogue earlier and tell you that the comparison that you made with between the robot and the four wings, the four courses at MEC is quite an apt one. In fact, what we are trying to do is create something similar that would that would be comprising of four different branches of engineering to create a fifth common all-inclusive entity, and that is a new engineer. So I'm not exactly saying that an MEC engineer, a new engineer, is like a robot, but no. But what goes into the making of a robot is exactly what goes into making a new engineer. Thank you for that beautiful
great.
Example that you gave us. And now
thank
moving
you,
forward,
Praveen.
now going forward and to Professor Didier Clotaire, our Dean of Academics here, I would like to ask him a question on whether the internships at MEC would be possible in the larger Ecole Centrale Paris and Supélec centers as well. Because the Ecole Centrale Paris has a wonderful network of both academia and corporates, and if our MEC graduates could, exploit that connectivity and get an opportunity to go on internships and projects in that wider, larger international network, it would be an amazing opportunity, I would say.
Yes, if I think we can go a little bit further than that. Internship of Ecole Centrale Paris or Supélec or any other Ecole Centrale in the world. It could be Beijing, it could be in Casablanca, in Morocco, but it is also an access to all the French companies, being either in India or anywhere in the world, because having a connection with Ecole Centrale Paris, it means having a connection with the best French companies operating all over the world, and they are so used to have our students, our French students in Paris, as for an internship, that they'll have no fear of hosting an Indian students coming from another Ecole Centrale in India. So our students will have many opportunities to have internships in French company or in our labs in France. And I want to add one thing concerning the internationalization of the program, is that they'll be offered, some of them will be offered not only an internship outside and in France, but also a semester abroad, which could be in Paris, in other cities in France, in Lyon, Lille, where Ecole Centrale already are well established, and also in Beijing or in Morocco. And this would be for the part of the academic program, which is compatible between all the Ecole Centrale. And so this is one other opportunity. I want to come back to the question of the place and the weight of humanities and social sciences with respect to natural sciences and engineering. If you look at the program in the first year, basically in the first semester, you have 6 credits on physics and only 3 credits on all the courses related to humanities. And you have also 6 credits on engineering and 5 credits on math. So you see that in terms of credits, we put a lot of emphasis on humanities because we think that there is a strong lack in the Indian students in terms of soft skills, and so we want to put on the emphasis of the need for them to have these soft skills. But we have to be pretty confident in the fact that we are a school of engineering, and the core of and the majority, more than the majority of our courses and the credits are in either in science or in engineering. Praveen?
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, thank you, Professor. Thanks for that augmented answer. In fact, I had asked Professor Ravi also to share his thoughts on that. Now we have a question from one of our viewers, Chaitanya, who wants to ask us that since Mahindra has collaborated with Ecole Centrale Paris and JNTU, would Ecole Centrale Paris itself be giving any kind of a degree to the student, or would it be some kind of a certification from the French government? They're not clear about that. So would you be able to answer them right here, right now?
Yeah, okay. Ecole Centrale Paris, as a French institution, is not allowed it to give a degree in India. So the degree, and especially the 5-year degree, will be an Indian degree, and we are asking for accreditation for this 5-year degree. And this Indian degree will be recognized by the French government, and more specifically by the French Agency for Engineering, as equivalent to a French degree. And not only that, but it will be considered equivalent, but the students will have a certificate saying that they have the degree of Mahindra Ecole Centrale as an engineering degree. So the Indian degree is recognized in France, and since it's in France, it's all over Europe as an engineering degree in Europe.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Now, Professor Ravi, I have a question for you. We have 2 to 3 logged in users asking the same question. Perhaps one of our professors has already dwelt on it to some extent, but I would like you to reiterate the response once more. Sujit and Kaushik have a question, and also Kandula Vinay. All 3 of them have a similar question. Is the syllabus same for all branches for 3 years, for the first 3 years?
No, actually, the syllabus is more or less similar for the students of all specializations in the first and the second years. But starting 3rd year, they will branch out into more specialized course depending on their specializations.
Okay, so another student, Kamal Haas, wants to know. I just want to know if this syllabus is enough to crack GATE. Will MEC cover all the topics as other colleges like IITs, BITS, and NITs?
Absolutely, I think you'll be more than prepared to crack GATE because, as I said in my previous answer, we have a lot of fundamental foundation emphasis on the math and physics, and math and physics are primarily the important topics that will be covered in GATE as well, and hence, like, we believe that you should be able to do very well on GATE.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for that response from you. And we have another question from Mr. Pranay. Pranay wants to know, would JNTU examination pattern be followed at MEC, or would MEC conduct its own examinations? Professor Krishnamurthy garu, I think I would like you to answer this question, Andy. It's a question that is being posed by Mr. Pranay.
Good afternoon, Pranay. See, most of us are tuned to the various universities and the question papers, and the bulk of the engineers plan to go through the last 10 years, and then get through with great marks. And that's not engineering, in my opinion. Engineering is going to be a complete understanding of a given topic, and engineers need to be tested on the various concepts. They are very, very important. And therefore, the question pattern is going to be not the same as what people have been used to. It's going to be different, and how different is something that we would decide over a period of time. And certainly, it's not only going to be the examination that would decide the grade of an individual. The activities that the individual performs over the length and breadth of the semester is going to be taken into account. The way they do their assignments, the way they are going to interact and be able to participate in the whole class is all going to, they are all going to decide the grades of the students. And the question papers are going to be prepared by us, and they would also be valued by us, is what I understand. Over to you, Praveen.
Yeah, thanks, Professor. Thanks for that.
I would like
And
to,
yeah, go on, Professor Ravi. Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to add on to what Professor Krishnamurthy was mentioning, and to answer Pranav. Good evening, Pranav. All our examinations will be conducted autonomously by MEC. That means we will not be following any questioning. I'm sorry, any exam patterns of the JNTU system. We are completely autonomous in the examination procedures and in allocating the grades to our students at MEC.
Thanks, Professor Ravi, for that. And Professor Vijay, I have a query for you now. As you know, we have put up a curriculum on our website, which is still dynamic. It is undergoing various modifications as we speak. And a few of our students have expressed a question as to when we would be able to give them not only the curriculum, but the syllabus, the syllabi for each of the courses, to the detailing of topics, etc., so that they could be better prepared for what's coming.
Sure. So the curriculum is, as Praveen just pointed out, is actually being carefully reviewed and see if there is any last-minute changes that have to be done in terms of some of the details in the syllabus and things like that. And I believe we should be able to basically put up everything by August 31st of this year. That means in a month and a half from now. So you will have pretty much details of all the courses that are going to be available for all the 4 years in all the 4 branches. Now that's one aspect of it. But of course, please bear in mind that as we go on, we cannot imagine what kind of new things one may have to learn to survive in the world that is changing every day in terms of its technology. So there are bound to be changes in the curriculum as we go on, especially at the higher level courses. We cannot be giving same one single course all years. So what you're going to see by August 31st is basically the course curriculum that we have currently put together. And then that is of course a dynamic process. We'll keep on updating that thing as we go along. You'll get still see a sample of what we will be offering over the next several years. Over to you, Praveen.
Thank you, Professor.
Praveen,
Yes,
this
sir.
is TSK.
Yes,
If
sir.
the curriculum were to be static, there is no growth at all, then we would not be addressing the needs of the industry or the needs of the growth or the challenges. We are not going to be like the rest of the institutions who follow a syllabus for endless number of years. We are going to have our syllabus which is going to be live. It's going to be dynamic. So expecting a fixed syllabus is not a good sign at all. Anything static is absolutely dead. We want to be dynamic.
Wonderful thought, Professor. Yeah, I agree fully with you that we should not be, in a stagnant pool as such, and move out of a pool into a larger, an ocean sort of, where everything is in a constant flux and ever changing. so that we can reach out to the widest and the farthest shores across the planet. I fully agree with you, sir, on that. And I have now the final question, something very non-academic for our Dean of Academics, Professor Didier Cloteau. I'm sure he should be able to answer this on behalf of all of us. A student, Shivanand Reddy, wants to know, what about sports at MEC? Do you give any credits to sports? Are there any coaches for sports like swimming, gym, football, cricket?
Okay, two answers to this. First, a small comment about the previous question. I'm extremely surprised and happy that our students put so much attention to our syllabus, the syllabus of each and every courses, and I'm really happy to see those students so eager to learn things that they want to see what is in our syllabus, and I can tell them that they won't be disappointed by what we have in the different courses. Well, coming back to sport, I hope that we'll have students who don't practice sport just for having some credits, because we want to have students not only good at math and physics and engineering and having soft skills, but we want to have full-grown human beings able to not only master difficult engineering problems, but also able to master their own body. And what can be better than that than practicing sports? Okay, but to go to the very specific question, as it is now, there are no credits related to sports, but lots of sport activities will be offered on campus, and we'll have a very nice campus, and there are several sport activities and also tutors for those sport activities offered on the campus. And I hope most of the students will participate to these activities.
Thank you so much, Professor Didier. And in the same breath, let me also thank Professor Krishnamurthy, Professor Vijay Shekhar, Professor Ravi for your valuable time today in trying to demystify the MEC curriculum and the concept of the new engineer to our avid and patiently listening audience. Do excuse us for any glitches that may have occurred in the beginning of the program. And please continue to be with us and follow us on Google Hangout every Tuesday. We are there every Tuesday, and we feature one faculty member per week to talk about some aspect of MEC or the other. And I personally congratulate all of you, those of you who have been selected at MEC and who will be joining us on the 31st of July, which is the orientation day at the hostels. And I also wish best of luck to all those who have been asked for the final round of counseling on the 18th of July. And I look forward to seeing you all here soon. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day and a fabulous weekend.
Thank you, Brian.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professors,
Bye.
once again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.